6:38, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. CNN's going to make my head explode this morning. So it's on here in the studio. Thanks, Murphy Show. And one of the headlines was that the Elon Musk live stream with Donald Trump was filled with softball questions. Hey, can I just ask a question? First of all, that whole thing was really supposed to be, more of a conversation than anything else. But they did talk a lot about policy. But has CNN come out and actually said that Kamala Harris or Tim Walz should actually answer some questions? See, that would be my response to CNN. That they have such lack of self-awareness. They don't realize how ridiculous they sound when they are the official, marketing arm for the Harris campaign, when they come out and they say, oh, Donald Trump's live stream with Elon Musk was, just full of a bunch of, lies and softball questions. Oh, my Lord. Yet you haven't called out Kamala Harris for not answering any questions whatsoever. Want to welcome on into the program Matt Bassett, our old friend Matt. I don't know. Did you see any of the live stream with Elon Musk last night?
Dan, because I knew we were going to talk about it, I tried to get on Twitter when it opened, and my wife and I, who are not the most tech savvy, are like, man, it just won't let us in. And of course, it turns out that Iran is hacking the event, but I did get all the recaps.
So, what did you? We just had a minor power glitch here in the studios. All the lights went off for like half a second. So always a good sign. Just give me your thought, just real quickly, because it's not what I wanted to have you on, but give me your thoughts on it. CNN saying nothing but softball questions. I really don't think this was supposed to be a hard-hitting interview. They're going to talk about policy like friends would.
I think that the key takeaway and difference, just like Trump's 2-hour press conference last week, is that Trump will answer each and every question that anyone has for him. And he will tell you exactly where he stands. He will tell you what he did as president and what he will do as president. And that's in complete opposition to Kamala Harris, who has now been the presumptive nominee for weeks and has answered maybe 2 questions on a tarmac because she's still trying to figure out what her policies are, which is ridiculous.
Okay, so I want to play this audio bite from you. This is from 2019.
Hi, my name is Sally Hartman. I'm a volunteer with the Center for Worker Justice. Okay. I want to know, when you become president, would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
So she says that she will commit to, on day one, emptying and closing the detention centers at the border. Now, Matt, you're a lot smarter than me, but I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of bad guys in those detention centers.
Well, they are, and she made this comment in Iowa in the primary in 2020, and to that comment, I would say, Dan, promises made, promises kept, 15 million times over.
Yep. And here's the problem we have with Kamala Harris, and that she has, and we'll circle back on this in a little bit, but they have done all of these things that clearly are a black mark on the Biden administration. They've let in all of these people, and we know that there's terrorists now in this country. And you're right, promises made, promises kept, and it's the American people who are suffering.
It is, and what is just mind-boggling to me is that they're trying to act like she's a brand new politician. Dan, she is 58 years old, and I will point out the sitting vice president of the United States. So when she says she's going to come out with her plan to get tough on the border or on her plan to combat inflation, she has been in this administration since day one. She has no plan. The plan to combat inflation is exactly what Biden is doing now. And the White House even said yesterday from the podium, Crenz Jean-Pierre said there is no daylight between the two of us. Yep. So if you want to know what Kamala Harris is going to do, look at what she has done for the last 3 years. And she wants to not own the dismal record of this administration. She does not want to own what a far-left radical Marxist she has been for her entire life, and they're trying to recreate her. No tax on tips? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Dan, everyone needs to understand she was the deciding vote in the Senate to add 88,000 new IRS agents who are going after primarily who? People who earn tips and waiters and waitresses. She has a record, and the fact that the mainstream media is not calling her out on any of these things show that they are just completely in her corner, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars of earned media to make her out to be someone that she is clearly, to anyone listening, not.
Well, and that's why as I opened this segment, I thought it was funny that CNN, of all places, was saying that you had that live stream last night between Elon Musk and Donald Trump was a bunch of softball questions, considering their behavior and their coverage or lack thereof of Kamala Harris. One of the things, as I'm doing some research on this whole detention center story, Fox News reports this. As of July 2024, the fiscal year, more than 37,000 migrants were being held in 18 private detention facilities, according to Customs, U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement. Just over 10,000 of these migrants have criminal records, while about 4,600 have pending criminal charges. And these are detention facilities that Kamala Harris, back in 2019, says that on day one of her administration, she will release all of these folks. And so I guess the question is, well, we already have millions and millions and millions that have come in. We've got all of these folks being, they're being held in these facilities. So when they release them, do they just release them into the interior of the country? It seems like that's what she wants to do.
The short answer is yes, and they've been doing it for 3 years. The most conservative number is they've done it 10 million times. When you add in gotaways, I think the real number, according to my friends like Tom Homan, are closer to 15 or 20 million. But, Dan, think of it this way. What is the point let me tell you, under the Trump administration, the people were detained and then they were removed. That was the whole point. They were here illegally, and they were sent back to the country that they came from. Here, they're temporarily detained, and they're let out into the United States. What's the point of having a detention center if you're then not going to remove them? So if they closed all the detention centers, I'm not sure it would make any difference. I mean, I think the numbers were that 300 people on the terrorist watch list have come across the border, and they have already released 100 of them into the interior of the United States.
Yep.
So you see my point, Dan?
Yep.
Why detain them if you're just going to release them anyway?
This is what Donald Trump said last night.
Many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world, they're coming from Asia. We have a defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. You have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they won't do anything. It's all talk.
And so now you folks that just joined us and just tuned in, Donald Trump sounds like he has a lisp. He doesn't. That is something that happens on live stream and spaces on X. It's just the technology. The left is screaming up and down that, Trump has suddenly a lisp and a slur. He doesn't. It's the technology. But the core of what Donald Trump is saying, obviously, is, number one, true. We cover this stuff every single day. Just in the last couple of days, and I know that this is, I mean, it just feels like every day, Matt Bassett, there's another story. Just yesterday, a story comes out. 2 men charged with rape. One is a migrant from Mexico. The other is a migrant from Nicaragua. One of these guys, is brutalizing this woman, and the woman's boyfriend comes up, tries to intervene. The other guy hits him over the head with a pipe. And it's just like every day there's another one of these horror stories, yet the media doesn't really seem to cover it.
Misinformation, apparently, Dan, is any narrative that CNN doesn't want to hear.
Totally agree.
And we see the examples of it every day. And what they don't want to say is the truth. The open border will continue under a Harris-Walz administration and will even get worse because both of them are on record either having done it or saying they want to do it, of giving them health benefits at taxpayers' expense and giving them an amnesty and a pathway to vote, which has been their entire plan the whole time. You have wealthy people fleeing leftist states like Minnesota and California, and they have to replace those voters. I mean, this was like right-wing conspiracy stuff 4 years ago, and now we're seeing it happen. And that's another story that CNN, they don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because they look at each other in the break room and they know it's true, and they think it's a great thing, but they just can't say that part out loud yet.
So I know that we'll probably speak to you before September 10th, but a lot of people talking about really can't wait for the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump if it eventually happens. I believe that it will, unless Harris, for whatever reason, decides to pull out. But at some point, she's got to come up with some policy. I mean, of course, you spoke earlier about no taxes on tips, and we've all been talking about that. It is unbelievable that she finally comes out with some sort of a policy and she copies Donald Trump's. And for some reason, they don't see that as an epic fail. That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It's worse than crazy because it's completely intentional. But I just want to remind everybody listening that her policy, there is no daylight between the White House and Kamala Harris. Her policy is today's policy, except that I would add, where Joe Biden has read what's on the teleprompter, she believes the radical left-wing stuff, and so does Tim Walz. So it's Joe Biden's policy even further to the left, and that's just the bottom line.